beautiful subscribers, it's good to have you back on my channel today, and I'll be giving you a step-by-step guide on how I made these lovely suit jackets. Like I promised in my previous video, I was going to show you how to make this jacket, and today we'll be doing it. So if you're new here, please subscribe and turn on all notifications. Ensure to give this video a thumbs up and share with your friends. So let's get started. Our pattern has just been cut on fabric, and today we'll be breathing some life to it. I know you would love to watch this video. Like I told you in my previous video, we'll be sewing this jacket pattern today. So on my table, I've cut all the patterns on fabric. Let me quickly run through what I've done. So this is the center back, and I've cut 2 pieces of the main fabric and 2 pieces of the lining piece. On each of this pattern, I've added 1/2 inch seam allowance all round and 1 inch seam allowance on the sides, as well as the bottom or the hem of the patterns. Okay, and I've cut the lining piece to be 1 inch shorter than the main fabric. So that's basically what I've done on each of this pattern. So I'm going to be explaining each of them as I place them on this table. So this is my side back, here's my side front. Now my center front, I've cut 4 pieces of my main fabric. Okay, I cut 2 pieces for the outer piece and 2 pieces for the facing. Now the facing is 1 inch shorter than the main fabric, just like I did with the other parts of my pattern. Okay, so I've also ironed on my interfacing. It's a lightweight interfacing. I've ironed on both panels, and on my center back I cut 2 pieces of my main fabric and 2 pieces of the lining piece, following same format. For the collar, I've cut 4 pieces of the collar piece, and I've added 1/2 inch all round the pattern. Now I've also ironed on my interfacing on the 4 pieces. You can as well cut these on fold. Okay, now on my sleeve pattern, I've cut the under sleeve or the bottom sleeve. You remember the drafting of this pattern? Yes, that's the sleeve pattern. I've cut 2 pieces of my main fabric and 2 pieces of the lining piece, with the lining piece being 1/2 inch shorter than the main fabric. And that's the top sleeve. Okay, I've cut 2 pieces of the lining piece and 2 pieces of my main fabric. And remember, we added 1/2 inch seam allowance around this sleeve. Okay, so I've just cut exactly the way the pattern is, and the lining is 1/2 inch shorter than the main fabric. Now let's sew them up. First step is to sew the left and right panels of the center front and the side front together. Okay, so that's my side front and this is my center front. So I've sewn them together on this point. Okay, and I've done same on the other panel. So the left and the right panels have been sewn. So the next thing we'll do now is to also sew the center back and the side back patterns together. I've just sewn all the back patterns together, and we'll have to align the shoulders now. So the front panel and the back panels will align the shoulder at this point, and we're going to sew at the shoulder on the 2 panels. Okay, so we'll just sew here and sew here. After that, we'll now close up the side seams and start working on the inner piece. Same thing we do on the main fabric is what we're going to do on the lining piece. So just watch closely and pay close attention while I do the sewing. Next, we'll sew the collar. Next, we're going to sew the sleeves, okay? So this is the top panel of the sleeve, and that's the bottom panel of the sleeve. We're going to align them. Remember our notches, okay? We're going to try and place these notches together, okay? So we'll just make sure we align those notches. This will guide us when sewing these sleeves. So now we'll just align the top notch and the bottom notch, and we'll sew on that line. Then we're going to do same on this side, okay? We'll do same on this side, align the notches, pin them in place, and sew on that side. So we'll do this on both sleeves, okay? When we're done, we'll do same on the lining piece, okay? Just watch closely as we're going to be sewing this together, okay? The sleeves, we need to open up the armhole on our main fabric. Then on our sleeve pattern, on the sleeve pattern, we'll fold this and ensure that these 2 points, the points we join, align each other. They are well aligned. When they are aligned, you pin this end as well as this end to both sides of the armhole, okay? So we'll pin this at the top of the armhole and pin this at the bottom of the armhole. When you hold the sleeves, the point where the armhole goes, where we have the curve on the elbow, you align the both of them. As you align both of them, you're going to be able to identify which part goes to the right and which part goes to the left, okay? So that's the left one and this is the right one, okay? We've passed it through that point. Then we'll align these 2 points, pin this at the bottom and pin this at the top. Okay, so we'll do same on the other sleeve. So we're going to be sewing round the armhole. After that, we'll sew our collar. So we have to pin the collar here. We align the 2 center back and pin that in place. Then you also align that point and pin it in place. our lining piece is ready. Okay, so that's it, and that's our facing. I've sewn the sleeves as well. Now I'll share a very quick tip. When sewing the sleeve for the lining piece, you have to place the right side. The right part of the sleeve will go on the left pattern, while the left one will come on the right pattern. This is because this lining piece will assume that we're wearing it inside out. Okay, so it will be worn inside out because it's going to form the lining piece of the main fabric. So it's going to be facing, the wrong side will be facing out when we attach it on the main fabric. So if you're checking the part of the sleeve that is curved, the part that curved into your right arm will go to the left part, while the part that curves perfectly on your left arm will come on the right part of the inner piece, because that's the way you will find out which part goes where for the inner piece. Okay, but for the outer piece, you're going to sew it exactly how it is. Okay, so I've also done the main piece, which is our main jacket. Okay, so I've done the collar, I've done the sleeves, and I've done all the parts. Okay, so it's now ready now. So the outer and the inner pieces are now ready. The next thing we'll have to do is to add a little bit of a shoulder pad on the shoulders of the main piece. Okay, it's just a little shoulder piece. If you haven't got a shoulder pad, you can use your wadding, the same wadding you use on your breast pads. You can use it on this way, just to give it a little lift and give it that suiting fit on your body. I hope this makes sense. So the reason the left part goes on the right is because this part will face the main one like this, so they will be opposite each other. In that way, by the time you wear it, the wrong side will face out, while the right side of the main fabric will be at the top. Okay, so now we're going to attach our shoulder parts, then we'll join up the collar and all the pieces. This is the part you need to pay very close attention to, because it's a bit tricky getting them sorted, but of course if you watch this, it will make it easier for you. So let's go there. So I'm going to place my shoulder parts. These are the shoulder parts. I'm going to place them on the shoulders of my jacket like so. Then I'll pin them in place. Okay, you just sew it on that point. Let me show you from this side. So you're going to sew it to the sleeve pattern, that's on the armhole. Okay, just sew it that way to that point, and attach it to the second sleeve as well and sew it. Now, quickly on the lining piece, I created a space, okay, at the back. This is where we're going to turn it out from. Okay, so just watch closely and see how we join this part. I've overlocked all the edges of this main pattern just to prevent it from fraying and to have a very clean finish. If you're working with a fabric that doesn't fray, I don't think there's need for the overlocking, but just for a clean finish, I had to overlock all around the main fabric. Okay, because my lining piece is 100% cotton, so there was no need overlocking that one. So now this is my main piece. You just align it on your surface, okay, with the wrong side facing you. Now we're going to place the lining piece on it. Okay, the lining piece, now this is our right side of the lining piece, and that's the wrong side of the lining piece. So place the wrong side on the wrong side of our main piece. Now we're going to align the sleeves. So we'll start with the sleeves first. Now these are the sleeves of my lining piece, and that's the sleeves of my main piece. So I will turn my main piece sleeve inside out, okay, so that the wrong side aligns with the wrong side of my lining piece. I hope this makes sense. You're going to align these 2 points, of course. That's the sleeve top and the sleeve bottom, the part where they both join, you align them just to have that point in place. Now you do same on your lining piece. You align the top and the bottom sleeve joining on that point. Now this is what we have here. Okay, once you've achieved this, you're going to place them facing each other like so. So the main sleeve and the lining piece will face each other on the sleeve. Now as you've done that, you're going to align both sides from the part where it joined, and you're going to pin that in place. Okay, you're going to do same on the other side and pin it in place. Then you're going to also pin the top side. Okay, you're going to pin that point as well. Now you're ready to sew around the sleeve. Once this is done, you do same on the other sleeve. Okay. So I've sewn around the sleeves. So after the sleeves, the next thing to do is to sew up your collar, and you just sew around the whole pattern. Okay, that's the part where you're closing up everything. So you can start with the collar. You just align the collar. You align the collar and you also align the bottom of your garment. Okay, so that way you just turn them with the right side facing each other. Okay, so this is what I mean. So that's your lining piece, and this is your main garment. You're going to turn them, you turn them the other way so that the right sides will face each other. Once you do that, you're going to sew the collar. You sew on the notches, on the notched part. Okay, you sew to that point, then you also align these two sides and sew. Then you now sew on your lapel. You sew the lapel all round until you get to the bottom. Okay, once you sew to the bottom, you're going to now sew at the bottom. Just keep sewing. You know, the lining piece is 1 inch shorter than the main piece, but by the time you sew this, it will fall in place. Okay, so just keep sewing. Ensure you pin up all the places with your notch, okay, or the points where you join the various patterns of various pieces. So just sew around the main garment, but first you need to sew the collar and the lapel first before we now sew the bottom. So just watch closely and see how I sew them. So I've sewn from the break point up to the notched part and to the collar, okay, then to the other side and to the other break point. Okay, that's what I've sewn now. Now the next part to sew is the bottom part. Okay, we're going to be sewing the hem. Okay, we're going to sew the hem now. So align both of them. That's the inner piece and the main piece. We're going to align them and sew the bottom. Okay, so we'll start from this point and sew on the hem all the way to the other side. We're sewing this first because you know the main fabric is longer than the lining piece. So by the time we sew it, we'll now align it at this point and make it equal before we now continue our stitch to the end. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. So before we sew the bottom part, we're going to turn them the right way. So we're going to turn our sleeves in and try aligning all the components. We'll just try to place it the right way. Okay, so we're turning the sleeves the right way, so that way we'll just bring out the inner sleeve and the other one. So we've aligned it, and this is how it should look like. Okay, so as you can see, all the parts are now joined. So now at this point, we have to try sticking out all our collars. We'll just use our scissors or something to stick out all the sharp points of the collar and the notches. Okay, just make sure they relax very well. You can make your top stitch at this point on the collar and the lapel. Okay, so we're going to make our top stitch on that point. Then you iron out the collar very well. Okay, the final part now is to sew the hem. So to sew the hem, we'll go in through the part we created. Remember the space we created at the back of the lining piece. So we're going to go in through that part to sew up our hem. Okay, so now we'll just fold this on this point. We'll align the center back part of our main piece and the lining piece. Then we're going to align the dart part as well. Okay, that's the part where the dart runs, as well as the side seams. We're going to align that as well. So I've pinned the hem. Okay, I've pinned it all around to the front pattern. So I'll just pin it around from that point to that point, to the back piece, to the side dart, to the side seam, and to the front pattern. Okay, so I've just pinned them all around. Now from where we stopped at the break point, we're now going to sew. Remember, this part is longer than the lining piece. So what we're going to do is to start from this point. Okay, we'll sew from this point first all the way round to the other side. Okay, we'll stop here. By the time we stop here, we'll now shift the main fabric a bit. Okay, so it aligns properly from the break point to the other side before we'll now sew to come like this. Then we'll now sew the remaining part. That way the lining piece will be concealed. So now that we've sewn all the parts, we'll just turn it inside out now, okay, to reveal the right side. Okay, so we'll just turn it from the sleeves, from the part we created at the back. That's where we're going to be turning everything from. So we'll just turn that out. Then we'll just make a little top stitch on the collar. By the time we press it, we'll be able to iron out all the notched parts. Then on this back part where we created our window, so we're going to sew this. Just hold it together and we're going to be doing a little top stitch. You can do this part with hand needle to conceal the seams. You just hide it in a little, or you just make a top stitch. By the time you place them together, just a tiny stitch, very close to the edge. You're going to just sew and close that part up. Then the last part of it is to add your button and your buttonhole just at the break point here. So that's just how this whole thing is made. I'll just do the final touches, then I'll show you how our lovely jacket came out. Okay, I hope this tutorial was interesting and helpful. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.